listening to Off the Cuff. Now, here's your host, Adam Banks.
The most magical time of the year is officially upon us with a fresh 68-team bracket set to be unveiled as everyone gears up for what should be another exciting edition of March Madness. Hello and welcome everyone to the March Madness series presented by Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. I, of course, am Adam Banks. And I have with me the OTC Sports panel, Chad Rainwater, Jordan Conatser, and Zach Hahn. Guys, we have all participated in this series for the last 9 years, and it seems like every year it just gets more and more exciting. Let's go around the table and catch up with everyone. We will start with Zach. Zach, it's good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing well, Adam. I hope you are as well. And as always, pleasure to be here. Can't believe it's been almost a whole decade at this point.
It's good to have you here again. Chad, what's going on, my man?
Not too much, man. Glad to be back on the show for the ninth season, you said?
Ninth season. This is our 9th year. I guess if you want to count the COVID year, it would be 10. But this is our 9th time doing it. Or do we count the COVID episode as part of the series? Just that one episode?
No, because there wasn't a tournament that season.
We did the house arrest series.
Yeah, the house arrest series.
Yeah. So
you can say the 10th.
I would say it counts.
But I found it funny because as we sat down, you can tell we're each getting older. Because when we first started doing these episodes back in 2014, I'm pretty sure we all had some adult beverages in our hands. And as we sit down around the table tonight, we're drinking coffee.
Yes, we all mature and we're all aging like fine wine, I will say. And then finally, ladies and gentlemen, I have Jordan Conatser. And Jordan, I want to say something. Do you remember in the early beginnings of the show, I used to call you Jordan Conatser?
Yeah.
I used to call you that.
Hey, this is the first year you actually got it right.
Yes.
You know me for 15 years.
15 years. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Best time of the year. Love being on the March Madness series and just being here. You know, it's something I look forward to all year.
Absolutely. I'm excited to get started. Okay, the brackets are out. The brackets have been released. It is Selection Sunday. So we all have our brackets filled out. I call this the gut bracket. Well, let me ask you, do you think, Chad, that the NCAA got the seeding right?
As a whole, I believe they did a pretty good job. Me being a little biased, you being a UK fan, I took a look at the SEC, and I think that they might have got some teams a little mixed up in the SEC. Tennessee came in as a 4 seed, UK is a 6, and Texas A&M is a 7. Texas A&M finished second in the SEC. I'm not sure how they got seated behind Tennessee and UK. I think Texas A&M should have probably deserved the 4 seed. Maybe Tennessee should have got the 6 and Kentucky the 7. But overall, it looks pretty good. That's really the only teams that I noticed with the seeding.
Right. I felt like the records, too, it was all over the place, honestly, because some schools had the same record. One school would be an 11 seed, one school would be a 4 seed. But I guess it all just ties in with strength of conference and all of that. Zach, do you think the committee got it right?
Yeah, for the most part. I think there's a couple instances where if you want to be more on the conspiracy side of things, you can look and say, well, hey, they kind of gave a team a seed that they didn't necessarily earn or deserve, maybe to set something up that's a little bit more intriguing. I think Kentucky-Providence is an example of that. I think Providence probably deserved a little bit better than an 11 seed, but it's an intriguing matchup. And kind of the same thing with Texas A&M there. I think they are probably looking forward to a Texas A&M Texas matchup in the second round. I mean, maybe not. Maybe they legitimately thought the second place team in the SEC was somehow a 7 seed, or maybe they just wanted a exciting matchup in the second round. But either way, you got to beat the best to win the title, so it all works out.
Jordan, were there any any teams that you were shocked to not get in the bracket of 68 teams?
No, there was really no surprises. I mean, this has just been a all-out crazy year anyway this year. In my opinion, there's not really been a best team for the entire season. So after, the end of the Vanderbilt season, it would have been nice to see them slip in as, maybe a 12 or a 13 seed. But I think everybody kind of knew beforehand that wasn't going to happen. They were going to be right on that line of the first 4 out, and that's the way it worked. So other than that, no, I mean, it looks good.
I think overall they did a really good job of getting all the teams that deserve to be in. If you had to make me pick one or two, I would say Oklahoma State to finish 18 and 15. which, I mean, it's not the best record, but they finished 7th in the Big 12. They had 6 quad 1 wins, but I believe they also had 6 quad 1 losses. They come in as 43 in the net, and another team out of the Big 10 is Rutgers. They finished 19-14, and they finished with 4 quad 1 wins. Mm-hmm. Those are really the only 2 teams. Like I said, I think they did a really good job of getting the teams that deserve to be in. But if you made me pick 1 or 2, it'd be those.
I'm going to have to agree with Jordan on the Vanderbilt game. I thought Vanderbilt was a team that really needed to be in. 20-14. They went on like a 10-game winning streak towards the last of the season. They upset Kentucky twice, once at Rupp Arena and then again in the NCAA or the SEC tournament. I wish they would have got in. Another team that I felt like got snubbed out of this year's tournament was North Carolina. Now, did you guys know that North Carolina became the first AP preseason number 1 team to miss the NCAA tournament since the field expanded to 64 teams in 1985? That is not a record that you want to put in the books at North Carolina, despite returning 4 starters from last year too. So I don't know if it was a surprise or just more of a upset to not see him in.
Go ahead.
I think more last year. North Carolina came into the tournament as a 9 seed.
Yeah,
had a terrible year. I mean, they got hot at the right time, and it proved that they were a 9 seed for a reason last year. But like you said, that stat, I actually did see that stat earlier a couple weeks ago, and North Carolina just didn't have a good season this year.
I think there's something going on behind the scenes in North Carolina. I heard a little bit of a rumor that it might be between a couple players fighting over a girlfriend.
Oh, well.
And I mean,
what could go wrong?
It would make sense. I mean, yeah, you said return 4 starters. You think, preseason number 1. There's got to be something else going on behind there that causes the problems.
They got Hubert Davis on the hot seat already and putting Jerry Stackhouse in the conversation, already.
I mean, I'm not mad about it.
I don't understand that. I feel like that Hubert Davis deserves at least a couple more years. I mean, what is this, his 3rd year, 2nd year? Second year. First year went to the Final Four, runner-up, as a matter of fact. And having a down year this year, it's too rushed, or it's too quick to even think about firing him. I mean, look at Kenny Payne. He even got a 2nd year at his job. But was there any teams that you felt surprised to see in the tournament?
Yeah, for me, I had Arizona State and Northwestern as kind of the biggest surprises. I think when you look at them compared to I would agree with all 3 teams that you brought up. I don't think North Carolina did enough to deserve to be in, but I think it'd be more exciting to see North Carolina in the tournament as opposed to Arizona State or Northwestern. I mean, if you look at KenPom rankings, Rutgers is in the same conference as Northwestern, has a significantly higher KenPom ranking, but somehow Northwestern gets the nod there. So, I mean, you say that, but then there's been a few teams recently that are in those first 4 games that have made a run, so maybe Arizona State in particular prove me wrong, but I just don't see it with them.
Martin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe North Carolina was the first 4 last year, weren't they?
They were a 9 seed.
Yeah.
I think they.
Syracuse is the one that I'm thinking of particular. A few years ago, they were in one of those first 4 games and ended up in, I want to say, the Elite 8.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that was the same season that Jim Boeheim was in some trouble at the beginning of the season. So they started off rough and then got hot at the right time.
All right, let's start going through this bracket. We've got 4 number 1 seeds. Alabama over there in the South. And then in the Midwest, we've got Houston. And then in the West, we've got Kansas. And then in the East, we've got Purdue. Jordan, I'm going to start with you. What number 1 seed do you have falling first in this tournament?
Well, we talked about a week ago. I talked to you about this. So, and I had to do it on my bracket. I can't help myself. This has been one of the most up-down college basketball seasons I can remember in history, honestly. There's not a clear, just out, better. I'm one team that's better than everybody else. The field's very open. So, I'm actually going to go ahead and go on record and say that Northern Kentucky's going to beat Houston in the first round.
Whoa!
Marcus Sasser's out right now. He messed up his groin in the semifinal games in their conference championship. And today, Memphis just handled Houston the entire day. Mm-hmm. So, they play I believe one of the earlier games on Thursday. So I see Northern Kentucky coming out and shocking them, and I'm going to advance the other 3 number 1 teams to the next round.
Okay, NKU North, that's interesting. So we had the head coach for the NKU North, his son actually plays for Kentucky. What's his name? I mean, I know that we should know the roster of Kentucky, but those bitch players get real hard.
The walk-ons.
He's a walk-on.
Yeah.
Darren Horn's the coach.
Darren Horn's the coach.
I can't think of the
Something
son's
Horn.
name.
Got that right.
But you know what, though? I don't hate it. I don't hate that, and it's definitely possible. I mean, no team in the tournament's bad. You got to be good to make the tournament. So I don't hate that. Now, I say that, and Houston is one of my favorites to make it to the even Final Four. Spoiler alert, but I don't hate it. Chad, what about you? What's your first number 1 seed to fall?
Well, I don't really want to spoil my Final Four or anything, but my first number 1 seed to fall is Kansas. I have them losing to UCLA in the Elite Eight. That's really the only number 1 I have falling. I mean, that's my first number 1 seed to fall and to beat the Final
You
Four.
went chalk.
I did go chalk. I went
chalk.
chalk.
Chalky
As Jordan
Chad.
said, this basketball season, as I like to call it, has been drunk. This college basketball season has been, one of the wildest, craziest up and down roller coasters the whole season. I figured coming into this bracket or this March Madness that there's going to be some crazy upsets, but I also think that once we get down to the Elite Eight, Final Four, it's going to be the better teams in the field. So yeah, I've Kansas losing to UCLA. I don't think that I like UCLA obviously a lot better than Kansas this season, despite being without one of their best players and Jalen Clark. So yeah, Kansas is my number 1 seed, my first number 1 seed to fall.
All right, Zach, who's the first number 1 seed to fall in your bracket?
I have Memphis beating Purdue in the second round. I think Purdue, obviously a very strong team. They earned the 1 seed, but at the same time, they haven't really impressed me. I've never been blown away by them to say like, oh man, that's definitely a Final Four team. And traditionally, I think they do underperform in March. I believe they also lost to St. Peter's last year.
They
so
did. Yeah.
I would expect them to lay an egg at some point. So I'm just going to say that it's going to be against Memphis. Even if they get past them, they could easily lose in the Sweet 16. I think they're going to. They could go to the Final Four, but out of all the 1 seeds, I see them being the least likely to do so.
Well, my first number 1 seed to fall is going to tie into what I want to talk about next, and that's our sleepers, our surprise teams, I guess sleepers, maybe dark horse, whatever you want to call it. But the team that is just going to kind of shock the world this year and go far. But I think Kansas is going to be the first number 1 seed to fall, and they're going to fall, ladies and gentlemen, to Rick Pitino's Iona. I got Rick Pitino as a far. I didn't realize how far he was going to go until I started filling out the bracket. I just like Rick Pitino. I mean, no explanation needed there. I think when you put the equation, Rick Pitino, March Madness, basketball, high stakes, high tension, he's going to advance. He's got a good 5 years left in him. He's going to land somewhere great after Iona. I look forward to seeing where that is. I don't think it's going to be St. John's, but I think that he feels like he's got a lot to prove since everything that's went down in his career over the last couple of years. So I think Iona is going to defeat Kansas, and Iona is going to be my big sleeper team this year in the tournament.
Okay. You don't think, I went back up. You don't think Rick Pitino's going to St. John's is like the perfect job for him?
A lot of people say that, and the reason I don't, what are they, Big East?
Yeah, Georgetown's open too.
They Big East. I don't have that feeling. I feel like Rick Pitino wants to coach in a big. He can get better. I just think he can get better. I know it's New York. I don't think Big East is big enough anymore for him. I think he secretly wants back in the SEC.
Oh.
I think he does.
Well, he said he's going somewhere, so
Yes.
we're about to find out.
Did he say he was going somewhere?
Yeah, he said he wants to get one more Power 5 kind of job before he retires, so to make a chance to have a run at it. So,
well, I think about it. He's only going to improve his stock, his worth, if he can keep advancing. Unfortunately, I've got him losing to UCLA in the Elite Eight, but that's a different story because UCLA is going
You
far.
got Iona going all the way to the Elite Eight.
Absolutely.
I've
Absolutely.
got
They're my
them in my
sleeper.
Sweet 16.
Yes, that's my sleeper team. That's my sleeper. So who's your sleeper, Zach?
I've got, I'll say one Cinderella and then one kind of sleeper to get to the Elite Eight. I already talked about them a little bit. That's Memphis. I think they, to Jordan's point, looked really good against Houston today. If you look at their overall body of work, it's pretty strong. They got some big wins in there, and I think it sets up for them. So I got them going to the Elite Eight. Could see them going farther. I just didn't have the, let's say, the cojones to write in Memphis in the Final Four. But for a sleeper team, I like Charleston. Over 30 wins this year. Not gonna lie, I don't know too much about San Diego State, but traditionally the way they play, as well as like Virginia in the second round, actually got Furman beating them, but those are the type of teams that are just not super athletic. They're not necessarily like the talent is better, but it's not so much that a team like Charleston couldn't find a way to win. So I've got Charleston in the Sweet 16. That's probably my craziest pick.
I'm going with Zach. He stole my thunder. I did a deep dive on Charleston here. Had their stats written down.
Oh, yeah?
But yeah, I think
Tell us more about it, because I just didn't give any
Okay.
details.
Elaborate.
Well, like Zach said, they went 30-3. They average over 80 points a game. They have 5 guys on the roster that average double digits points. Their leading scorer, Dalton Bolin, averages 12. But I thought that was pretty interesting. That's the only team that I have.
I like that. So how far do you have Charleston going?
I have them going to the Sweet 16. I have them losing to Bama. If they were in another region, I'd have them going probably further. But I don't think that.
Ooh, maybe they could upset Alabama. If I knew that, I would have had them facing off against Alabama and beating them. I didn't know all of that.
Yeah, so I only have them going to the Sweet 16.
Hot take, folks. This might be the team to pick, ladies and gentlemen. Charleston.
Like I said, my bracket's pretty chalked. That's really the only double-digit seeded team I have going that far. And next up behind them would be Texas A&M. I have them going to the Elite Eight, but that's not a Cinderella team. That's just one of the teams that I have that has one of the lower seeds that have advancing pretty far.
Jordan, I'm curious to hear your sleeper.
I don't really have any big like dark horse sleepers. I rolled with the 13 seed Iona, Sweet 16 bound. My biggest one, it's not. You could call it a sleeper if you want to. 8 seed Arkansas. That's a team to watch out for. That Arkansas was missing 2 of their key players for a good portion of the year. And now they got the guard Nick Smith back. He's one of the best, freshmen in the nation. Mm-hmm. Arkansas is a very physical, very fast team. They're not very good shooting threes, but I think Arkansas is going to give a lot of people all they can take. And I think Arkansas actually has what it takes with the physicality and the athleticism to beat, especially like a Kansas out of the Big 12. They're going to play a different speed. So I got Arkansas actually in my Final Four.
Wow.
And then another one, like I said, it's not really a sleeper, but it's a Duke team that's clicking at the right time.
Yep.
I don't even want to tell you how far I've got Duke going right now because I'm a Kentucky fan and it hurts myself to look at my bracket and see what I've done here. So,
but don't we deal with this every single year? Don't you always pick Duke? We still forgot to order your Duke shirt.
Oh, that's right.
They always get there though. That's the issue.
Duke fan over there.
As much as I hate to do it, they always get there. So, but other than that, I don't really have anything crazy. I got several upsets, but.
Just a 16 beating a 1, a 13 in the Sweet 16, and some crazy teams in the Final Four. It sounds like nothing too wild.
Are we on the topic? Are we doing our upsets or just our Cinderellas?
I would like to hear your upsets. Yes.
Okay, so I'll start off by saying this: that it's not the biggest.
Yeah,
upset.
let's go ahead and cover this.
It's not the biggest upset, but since we're all UK fans here, I think it's pretty big to me. I have Kentucky losing in the first round.
Okay, so that's an upset. I feel like that would be a fair upset to say.
I think there's so much pressure on Kentucky and Coach Cal in that first round, especially going against Providence and Bryce Hopkins. I think that it'll be a close game, but I can't pick Kentucky to go any further than. I can't see them advancing at all. I just have no hope in this team. They've been so inconsistent. We've strung together 3 wins total, outside of the non-conference games. I just don't think we're not hitting the right.
If you had
stride.
to give,
I don't know what's going on.
If you had to give Coach John Calipari a grade for this year, what would you give him and why?
I almost slipped a cuss word.
It's podcast. You can on this.
I'm going C minus.
C minus?
Like low C minus.
C's getting degrees, man.
I don't remember what the actual number for C's are nowadays.
70
70
to 79.
I'm going with this 79 to 70.
Yeah.
74.
Or 70 to 79. You can't go 79 to 70.
I'm giving him a 70. C minus.
Okay, why?
Why not? He's not. What's he done? I mean, my God, you come in top 5 preseason, and you at one point in the season, just a couple weeks ago, we were talking about, are we even going to make the tournament?
Yeah.
I mean, we've had a good.
He's got some Little House on the Prairie to watch, dude.
Exactly. That's another thing. I'm sure that's what he's doing tonight. He's not scouting Providence. Oh, we played Providence in 2014. I'm just going to watch Little House on the Prairie.
There's a lot of seasons of that. You got to put in some time.
And that's actually, no jokes aside, that's actually a good show, Little House on the Prairie. Have you guys ever seen it?
Oh yeah,
everybody said
I was gonna
see A Little House on the Prairie.
My mom loved that show, and so I watched it a lot with her growing up, and she cried at the end of every episode. I think because of Michael Landon, what happened to him. But I tell you what, if Cal loses to Providence, he's going to be crying. So I think that one's personal for him. We've had chip on his shoulder Cal all year, and you want to talk about a chip on his shoulder game with the comments that were made by the the young man that was it Bryce Hopkins, that transferred, kind of called Cal and what he saw as the reasons why he transferred out. He called him out a few weeks ago on it. I guarantee you that was heard, and I think Cal's gonna put the Waltons and Little House on the Prairie on the DVR and get to it after that. I think if he's gonna put in an effort for one game, it'll be this one. I think we'll be ready to play.
Well, I think that if he was watching the show, I think he picked a good one to watch. I recommend the audience to check out the episode where the horses go wild on some of the main characters, and it's so dramatic. The main character, spoiler alert, they die, and it's shocking. They didn't make that. You got to think, folks. This was what, 70s.
Wow.
This was dramatic television where the horses went wild. A main character went blind.
There's always so much going on for them to be living in the middle of nowhere in the 1800s. There was always stuff happening.
Yes, a lot of things happening. It was very dramatic, and they fool you with that intro because it's very like pleasant.
It's stuck in my head.
It's pleasant, but it's just a dramatic, dark show. It's kind of dark.
On the flip side of that, I'm sorry to ruin the Little House on the Prairie combo, but on the flip side of what I just said, I am kind of using a little bit of reverse psychology here because every year I pick Kentucky to go far, and I would love for them to make a deep run. So that's why I'm picking them to lose early, just so I don't have any stress or I don't have to worry about it. I don't know that I'll pick them to go any further in any other brackets, but at the same time, like maybe this year I pick them to lose in the first round and they'll advance pretty far. So that's another reason why I picked Providence.
Okay. I don't know. My dad was like texting me. He was like, "Are you okay? Are you sick or something?" I think it's because my phone's on airplane mode. I'm okay. Anyway, interesting enough there. But first number one seed to go down. I definitely think it's going to be.
You already told us that, didn't you?
Yeah. I'm lost. What was we talking about?
Little House on the Prairie.
Little House on the Prairie. Yes.
Get back to it.
Yeah.
It's been a weird year. Like I said, college basketball's been drunk, and Calipari's got us talking Little House on the Prairie on the Selection Sunday show.
Yes. I can't believe that, man. But Calipari, I don't know. It's interesting you say Kentucky's going to lose out in the first round. I've actually got Kentucky going to the Elite Eight, and I didn't expect that to happen until I started filling out the bracket. I think they'll get past Providence. Cal's got too much pressure on him in this first round, so he's going to have to really, show up and show out. And then Kansas State, chip on his shoulder from losing to him last time. And Tom Izzo, I think Tom Izzo's getting old. And Cal versus Izzo, I'm going Cal every time. So that's why I've got Cal in my Elite Eight.
So you got Michigan State beating Marquette then.
I do.
That's an upset right there.
Yes.
By itself.
Yes. I do not like, what's his face?
Shaka
Smart.
Shaka. I don't like Shaka. I just never been a Shaka fan. I thought he was overrated. So I think he'll fall, as he always does, in the tournament.
Marquette always scares me. Marquette always come for the NCAA tournament, and it seems like they always got Kentucky's number. So I got Kentucky going to the Sweet 16, losing to Marquette. But with your prediction, I think it's going to take an Elite Eight for Kentucky fans to be even a little bit satisfied with this season. I said a Final Four run yesterday to Zach. I've changed my mind. Elite Eight run. It squashes the year that we've had. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. So.
How far do you got Kentucky going, Zach?
I do have us getting the Providence game for the reasons I said. I think that one's personal on a certain level. I have us losing to Kansas State in the next round. Kansas State's pretty strong. Big 12's pretty strong.
It just scares me. Kansas State's so weird. Have you kept up with them this year?
They've been all over the place as well, and so but so have we. So I think,
yeah.
I think good Kentucky shows up on, what do we play, Friday?
Friday.
And then I think bad Kentucky probably shows up on Sunday, and we all get really excited because we look good against Providence and think, all right, we're putting it together, and then just lay an egg.
That's how the seasons have been this year, right?
Yep. So I don't see that changing at this point. To Chad's point, we haven't really been able to put together more than one or two good games in a row, it seems like. So that's where I have us going out, and then it'll be really interesting to see who comes back and what kind of team we put together next year with that recruiting class.
All right, it's now that time for us to go around and give our Final Four predictions. Jordan, I'm going to start with you. Give us your Final Four prediction.
Well, out of the South, you're going to have the overall number 1 seed, Alabama. Final Four. Alabama's playing great ball this year. They can shoot lights out. I'm not going to make any more comments on that. It's a terrible situation. I'd love to see them go out earlier. But they have, what's the kid's name? He's the first team All-American, Brandon Miller, is that right?
Yeah, Brandon Miller.
Yep.
So, there's been a lot of speculation and stuff with the whole terrible situation going on about him. But Alabama's got a really good ball team. I see them make it to the Final Four. Spoiled it a little bit earlier out of the East. I got the 5 seed Duke coming in. I think they've won 10 in a row. They blew everybody out of the waters throughout the entire ACC tournament. Derek Lively, Kyle Filipowski, they got Jeremy Roach back. Coach Shire's actually getting his team looking pretty good. His freshmen aren't really freshmen anymore. And then out of the Midwest, let's go another surprise. I've got 4 seed Indiana coming in. They got Trace Jackson Davis. He's going to be a first team All-American. He's averaging 21 points and 11 rebounds per game this year, and he looks like a first-team All-American. And then they have the freshman Jalen Hood-Schifino, and then Mike Woodson, second-year coach, and he's got that team rounded up and looking good, looking like the Indiana of Bob Knight days. So I'm going to send them to the Final Four. And then out of the West, the 8 seed out of the SEC, Arkansas. I don't want to, replay it all from earlier. Arkansas is healthy now, and they've got a very good ball team, and I think they're going to be able to give some people some trouble.
Okay, and while we're on it, go ahead and reveal what happens in your Final Four and give us your champ.
Well, I'm going to have Duke beating Alabama. I don't think they have the size to be able to compete with it, and Duke is going to be able to do the same thing and pull their guys out, shoot threes. They're going to be able to really give Alabama trouble. Duke's going to advance past Alabama. And Indiana is going to advance past Arkansas. Like I said, Indiana's just overall talent. Trace Jackson Davis and Hood-Schifino. I just don't think Arkansas is going to be able to keep up because Indiana's going to be able to. They're going to be able to play a little bit of bully ball with them, and I'm going to have Indiana advancing. And as much as I hate to do it, I got Duke winning.
Wow.
Oh wow, he did it again. He did it again. But a big year for Indiana, according to you. So you think Indiana is going to be back? This would be their first Final Four since
20.
I feel like they went in the 2000s. Yeah.
2002? 2002.
Yeah.
2002.
Yeah, so it could happen. All right, Zach, what about you? Who is your Final Four?
Well, coming out of the, at least the top left on my bracket there, I got Baylor beating Alabama in the Elite Eight. Baylor, I'd say at this point, I think they're definitely a fully legit program, one of the elite, really, of the last 10 years, if you look at it. They got Jalen Bridges, Adam Flagler, Keontae George, and then they got Shamway Shachua, I think is how you say that.
Yeah.
Got him back recently. So they're looking good. Got them going. And then I do have Marquette going.
Okay.
Down from the East region. Kind of just by default. I think it kind of works out for them. Fun fact on Marquette, I think I've probably mentioned it on this show before, but out of programs that Kentucky has played at least 10 games against, we have the worst record against Marquette. We're 4-7 against them all time. So if we did happen to run into them, I think they'd have our number. Things just didn't really click for Shaka Smart at Texas. Didn't quite ever get to the level that they were looking at there, but I still think he's a solid coach, and they're very hot right now. So just peaking at the right time by the looks of it. I got Texas over Houston in the Midwest. Depending on Sasser's house, I could see Houston being the one seed that does sneak in there with Coach Sampson. Well-coached team, but Texas, with the kind of the adversity that they faced with their head coach having his situation and the fact that they've stayed strong through that, I think they're the real deal. And like I said, I'm on some Big 12 love today, so I've got them as a second team in there. And then from the West, I have Gonzaga going. Their defense is questionable, but Timmy still got him. Number one offense on Ken Palm.
How old is he? 100?
Yeah, I mean, when you got a 34-year-old guy out there that can't hurt to have that experience, so I have them as my fourth team. No one seeds in the Final Four for me. And then you may go ahead and give my picks.
I do. I want you to go ahead and explain who you got going to the championship.
I've got Marquette over Baylor. I could see that one going either way. Just give Marquette a slight edge for just seeming to put it together at the right time with some impressive wins over. I believe they beat Xavier and UConn in the conference tournament. But I have Gonzaga winning the other side. And to your all's point about college basketball being drunk and unpredictable this year, I always hate on Gonzaga, but I think if you're going to look at a year like where Gonzaga finally gets it done and wins the championship, I'm writing it down for this year. I got Gonzaga. Book it.
First time ever for Gonzaga's coach,
Mark
Few, to get a championship. He's been there a couple times, been close, but never quite got it. Been there over 20 years and never got one. Now, a lot of people want to fire Coach Cal, and he's got one that's still more than Mark Few. But, hey, I'm going to defend Cal all day, every day. But, okay, my Final Four, and I'll give you my champ. We got Alabama going to the Final Four from the South. SEC, the only SEC team that I actually got doing well other than Kentucky in the whole tournament. I've got all the other SEC teams losing in the first weekend, but I've got Alabama in the Final Four. I do think that Alabama will make it there. And then I've got Duke. Duke looks good. They won the ACC championship. That ain't easy to do. Some people say that's the hardest conference in college basketball. So if you can win that, you can win it all. So Duke in the Final Four. Houston has looked good all year. They've obviously been the favorite, I think, for a lot of people. So Houston's going to make it in the Final Four. UCLA. I like UCLA. I've always liked UCLA. I like Mick Cronin. As a matter of fact, that's one person I'd pick up the phone to see if he was interested in the Kentucky job if we ever lost Cal. But UCLA, I'm going to put them in the Final Four. And then I've got Houston defeating UCLA. And the reason for that is because I don't think UCLA is at full capacity, are they?
No, they have an injury. They
had a key injury.
Jalen Clark, he's their best defensive player. I think that will hurt them.
Is he done for the year?
I think he's done for the year.
So if they were at full capacity, I think UCLA would make it to the Final Four, but I'm going to put Houston in the championship game. I think Duke is going to defeat Alabama. I think that Alabama is the whole nation is rooting against them for good reason. I think their actions over the past few weeks have just been classless, with the patting down and whatnot. After somebody lost their life, I just think that was classless. I think the whole nation's rooting against them, me being one of them. I don't think that Nate Oates will be good enough to pull it off against Duke. So I got Duke and Houston, and then, ladies and gentlemen, Houston being the 2023 national champ. So we all have different. No, who else had Houston?
We're saving the best for last?
Oh.
I haven't shared mine yet.
Oh, and there we go, ladies and gentlemen. I have Houston. So far we all have different teams. But, Chad, we're going to get to you next. Give us your Final Four and your champion.
Okay, my Final Four. Out of the South, I have Alabama, led by Brandon Miller, who's been killing it, no pun intended. And Mark Sears, I think they make their first Final Four appearance. I really didn't want to pick Alabama. But looking at their region, I feel like they are the best team. And they've been one of the best teams in college basketball the whole season. So I have Bama beating Arizona to go to the Final Four. I have Purdue coming out of the East beating Marquette. I think it's going to be hard to stop Zach Edey. I feel like Purdue's one of those teams that, like Kansas in the past, they either go far or they'll get, taken out pretty early, but I think this is the year that they advance. I have them in the East. Out of the Midwest, I have Houston. I am a little worried about the health of Marcus Sasser. I think that if he does come back, I'd say they might hold him out of the first round, but if he comes back second round and they keep advancing, I think that they have a good chance to go to the Final Four. Have them beating Texas A&M in the Elite Eight, and then in my West region, I have UCLA beating Kansas. It was hard deciding between Kansas and UCLA. I do really like UCLA's team, but like we've said, it really bothers me that they have one of their key players out. I still think Hawkes and Tucker Campbell still lead them to the Final Four. And then in my championship game, I have Bama and Houston. And I believe that Houston will bring home the title. Houston's one of those teams that's been knocking on the door the past couple seasons, or past few seasons actually. I think Kelvin Sampson's doing a really good job there, and I think this is his year. And I think the Houston Cougars, I don't know what their team mascot is. Cougars.
Yeah, the Cougars
win the championship.
Okay, so there we go. So me and Chad agree on that. And speaking of brackets, ladies and gentlemen, we are having the Off the Cuff with Adam Banks Bracket Challenge. You can sign up for that now. You can go to Off the Cuff with Adam Banks on Facebook and click on the link, and it will take you right to the bracket challenge where you can fill in the ESPN bracket. You have to make an account. If you've done an account before, it's the same account that you've always used. Put in a bracket. It's really easy. It's a lot of fun. Get in on the bracket challenge. All of us will put our bracket on the bracket challenge so you can play against us. The winner gets a free Off the Cuff with Adam Banks tumbler. It looks good. Chad, how good does that tumbler look? It looks
damn good.
It looks damn good.
I might have to add that to my collection.
Yes,
we're eligible, right?
Yeah, yes.
Drinking out of my Off the Cuff coffee cup. Again, I'd like to pump this every year. Winning in it is worth it because then you have that piece of Off the Cuff memorabilia in your home. And I love opening up the cabinet every morning and having Adam Banks' smiling face looking right back at me as the sweet black gold hits the coffee cup, and I get to just start the day off. So the tumbler, that's just a whole nother level right there. That's exciting. Yes,
and I love looking at the history of the winners of the bracket challenge. I think the first winner was somebody that we didn't even know. And Sean Powell got mad at me, I think, and Sean Powell, I want you to come back to the bracket challenge. He's not been joining in since. I think he got mad at me because what happened was the winner never claimed the prize. Sean Powell came in second. Well, you still didn't win, Sean. Only the first place gets the prize. But I still want you to come in and try it again. Then Zach won, and then my mom won last year. Zach came in second. Zach's beating the brakes off of us every single year. But get in on the fun. Do that. It's the Off the Cuff with Adam Banks Bracket Challenge. Win a free Off the Cuff with Adam Banks tumbler. It'll be awesome. Let's get, folks, we're almost out of here, but we always like talking about the coaching carousel. It's the time of year for coaches to get hired and coaches to get fired. I'm going to run through this, and I'd just like to get commentary from my OTC panel. South Florida and the ACC fired Brian Gregory, and feel free to stop me if you have anything to say about these coaches. Georgia Tech from the ACC fired Calipari prodigy Josh Pastner.
He's going to be on the Kentucky staff next year.
You think?
I think he's going to be an assistant coach He's going to be the X's and O's guy. He's good at it, so he'll be here next year.
They gave him plenty of time there. I think he'd been there 7 seasons and had 4 losing ones. So
Jordan makes a good point about him being an assistant coach. I believe that it is in the, not headlines, but I've seen that teams are starting to come after Bruce Flint. So if he leaves, I think Pastner would be a good substitution or replacement.
For any of them to go, they'll be the one to see go too, Bruce Flint.
Great to get a new John Robick type person on the staff. So if you're telling me that's what Pastner is, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'd be for that. Notre Dame lost Mike Bray due to resignation. Syracuse, this is a big one, folks. Jim Boeheim, after 47 years coaching at Syracuse, they say retired, but he fired. Chad, what are you giggling over there about?
I mean, they could never really fire Boeheim. He left under, he kind of got forced out of the door. So But it's gonna be a different world without Boeheim in it.
Well, listen, I know that Coach Jim has really, one championship?
One in 2003, I think.
One in 2003 after 47
with,
years.
Carmelo.
He played there too. Like he's been there since like the 60s.
He did, but listen. That's not a way to go out. That's not a way for you to end your legendary career. You got to quit. You got to know when to hang it up. And that's what's wrong with people sometimes. They don't know when to hang it up. And that is the perfect
You should have listened to Kenny Rogers.
example. Yeah, you really know when to hold him and fold him. And it was time for him to go. But he unfortunately had to get forced out. But they're going to replace him with Adrian Autry. That's the story.
Yeah, he played for him in the early 2000s. Is that right?
I have no idea who that is.
Yeah, I didn't either.
He's the assistant coach. He's already got named head coach. He was a Boeheim player, and he's been an assistant coach for a while. But
I mean, Boeheim probably made that selection. Like, he kind of earned that right to pick his successor, for sure. But Jordan and I were talking about this yesterday. I mean, it's like really has been a changing of the guard in terms of Kay's gone, Roy Williams is gone, Boeheim's gone, Izzo probably not too far behind.
So is Cal the most legendary coach?
I'd say Bill Self right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a couple legendary ones left.
Izzo.
Definitely been
Dwindling down.
Yeah.
It's definitely
It's
getting there.
dwindling down, absolutely. Yeah, it's changed just over the last couple years. That's huge. Okay, well, we got Austin Peay lost their coach, Nate James. Listen here, Texas, we know that Chris Beard got fired. Their acting coach is Rodney Terry, but he's interim, correct? They're still
He's still interim.
Yeah, they're still
done
open.
a good job.
Yeah.
Depending on what they do in the tournament. I mean, I don't know how he's been able to recruit for them. That's probably the hard part there. I mean, he had a pretty good team to inherit in that situation, but it'll be interesting to see if they decide to give him the permanent job or if they go out and get somebody.
Chris Beard is just the weirdest situation too, because that was probably the highest seeked out coach, in my opinion, by Kentucky. Which he's a Texas alum. That was his job.
That was his dream job there, and he lost it. So.
I think he'll be in the SEC next year at Ole Miss, though. I'm going to call that.
Okay. Also, we've got Nathan Davis fired at Bucknell. Jimmy Allen fired at Army. Zach Claus fired at Idaho. Mike Anderson fired at St. John's. Rick Pitino will not be going there. Georgetown parted ways with Patrick Ewing in the Big East. Mark Adams resigned at Texas Tech. Mark Fox, y'all remember that name?
Yeah.
That's a Georgia coach right there.
Mark Fox was fired from his Pac-12 job at California. Kermit Davis fired at Ole Miss, and they're saying that Chris Beard might actually be interested, or they might be interested in Chris Beard.
Mark Fox says, did you see how bad Cal was this year? They were worse than Louisville.
Was it 3? We looked at it
3-29, and then they won 3 out of 4. And
that's bad.
1 point randomly in the middle of the season, and then it was just they lost to everybody.
Yeah. Do you all think? Let me ask you guys, since you brought up Louisville, do you think Kenny Payne deserves a second season? I think you at least have to win 5, right?
I mean, I want to say, because I like Kenny Payne, no. I mean, first-year coach, he recruited nothing. That they still don't have any good recruits coming in. I like Kenny Payne, but yeah, you can't keep a job after you win 4 games. I'm sorry, you can't keep that job after you win 4 games.
I agree. I don't think that the second year should always be guaranteed. I think there has to be a minimum standard. So I think win 5 games, you get a guaranteed second year at least. He won 4, Zach.
Yeah, that's a tough call. I mean, who else are they going to get, though? They might as well give him a second year. I mean, if he starts
it's a
off...
big school. It's a nice school. A lot of people would take it. Respectable.
It's a top 5 job in college basketball.
Yeah.
Maybe not anymore. So, I don't know. I'd give him... I guess you kind of... I feel like you kind of have to. Who knows what the financial situation is there. Probably got buyout that they have to look at as well.
Bring Pitino back.
Yeah. I don't think they'll be bringing Rick Pitino back, but
they brought Petrino back several different times, so you never can tell.
That's true. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they got to be prepared to fire him early next year, though. starts going off the rails again.
Desmond Oliver fired at East Tennessee State. Jay McCauley resigned at Wofford. John Aiken fired at Southland McNeese. Brian Berg fired at Georgia Southern. Greg Ayer, and I'm almost finished, fired at New Mexico State. And then Greg Young was fired at Texas Arlington. So a few job openings.
I don't know what list you're looking at. Did you not see, didn't Western Kentucky fire Rick Stansberry?
Was that official?
And Will Wade's supposed to take that job.
But was that official? Is that official?
I think
I saw
was.
Will Wade's going to the McNeese school that you just said.
McNeese State.
Yeah, that's where Will Wade's going.
Okay.
I thought Rick Stansberry got fired.
That makes
Hey,
sense. McNeese, I believe, is in Louisiana.
Rick Stansberry's on the hot seat. He probably did, and we're gonna have updates on this because
it says Rick Stansberry reportedly out as coach of WKU.
Oh, wow.
Will Wade rumored as replacement. That was a day ago, but I don't know if anything's escalated since then.
Wow. So, yes, and we'll keep you updated, folks, on the coaching carousel because it will change over the next couple of weeks. But the March Madness tournament begins with the first four on March the 14th and 15th. The first round is March 16th, 17th. The second round is March 18th, 19th. Sweet 16s, March 23rd, 24th. Elite 8, March 25th, 26th. The Final Four, April 1st. And then the National Championship game, April 3rd. Now listen, we will be back to cover all of that. Our next episode will be the first and second round show, and that will be on WLXU 93.9 FM on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. So stay up late, make you some coffee, and listen to the OTC crew cover March Madness. Before we wrap up episode 1 of 4 for this year's March Madness series, does anybody have anything to add before we wrap up?
No, not really. I appreciate it again being on. It's always a fun time of year, and this just makes it more exciting to be able to do this. And hope that the listeners will keep tuning back in. And even though our picks will probably be wrong,
Always.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Just come for the entertainment.
Yeah, thanks again for having us. Like Jordan said, I guess we can all agree it's our most favorite time of the year. I'll be excited to get in the studio again for the second season. That'll be good. But this one was fun. I enjoyed it.
I don't really have anything to add. It's going to be a fun weekend of basketball, and I can't wait to be back next Wednesday.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the Selection Sunday Show 2023 for episode 1 of 4 of the March Madness series presented by Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. I want to thank my OTC sports panel, Zach Hahn, Chad Rainwater, and Jordan Conatser. I'm Adam Banks, and this is Off the Cuff with Adam Banks presents the March Madness series. We will see you in the next episode.